Brother Harrison on here, and we will get this thing started.
We definitely got to give ourselves time to talk some Ian Garry, man. We got Ian Garry making his debut, minus 400 favorite, all the hype in the world, coming in undefeated. He's Irish, so the next Conor McGregor is going to get put right, wrong, or indifferent. It's just going to come with the territory of coming out of Ireland.
This kid plays it so well. This kid plays it so well,
Plays it.
man.
He plays it. He's following the game plan, but he's fighting Jordan Williams plus 310. Jordan Williams, his nickname should be Cannon Fodder. Jordan Cannon Fodder Williams. I mean, he
But
just gets lit up.
the guys that make him fight are unreal. His fights so far are Nasruddin Imavov, Ian Garry, and Kennedy and Chukwu or whatever his name is.
Those are some scary guys.
And
Those
Mickey
are all
Gall.
scary. Yeah.
And it's like, bro, like, why are they making
Yeah,
you fight all these guys?
But those are also guys that are like not close to being ranked. I mean, it doesn't get much easier. It doesn't get much easier. I mean, it's the UFC, man.
It's a good point.
It's
170, like this whole card structure on 170, obviously the top is happening, and we'll get to it in the main card because it's a big, long discussion we're going to have. But yeah, you're not wrong, man. Like Jordan Williams is stepping into the hardest division in fighting. And it's not only that, like he fought, I want to say Imavov at 185 and then Chukwu at 185. And then there's also fought like these other guys at 70. And it's like, bro, first of all, you got to pick a weight. Second of all, I just don't think you have the skill set.
Well, he definitely doesn't have the chin. I know that.
That's
essentially
what I'm saying. Is like he just can't take the shots, and like if he's gonna not have as good of striking defense as he has, you got to be able to eat shots, to give shots. Like Prohaska, for instance, not the best striking defense. That's his whole plan: is that you land or throw one big shot, you connect. Oh, great! I'll throw this combo. Boom, boom. Oh, I'm asleep. That's too bad. You know what I mean? Like, that's Prohaska's whole game plan is like, I'm going to bait you into something that you should have never wanted to walk into. Williams seems to do the same thing, but he can't eat those shots. And those shots stagger him. They put his shots offline. I mean, let's dive into it because I think Ian Garry exposes a lot of these lines.
Yeah, this fight only lasts one round, so let's go ahead and get into it, man. Because this round actually, and they happen to both be from the UK, I think Ireland, or that region. Because it reminded me so much of Paddy the Baddy's debut, where he had some very tough moments, and it looked like he was maybe a little overhyped. But when it was all said and done, put all the questions.
Right, and also
it reminded me so much of Paddy's debut, and on more ways than one. On the mic, in the ring, I mean, it was almost like a replay of Paddy the Baddy.
Well, I was pumped because I think Garry he's definitely younger than Paddy, has had way less fights, and was just more real in his post-fight interviews.
So less fights, more herpes? Question mark.
Yeah. You mean the side of his mouth that's just it's inflamed? I hope he wasn't getting with any chicks last night. Crazy herpes, this guy.
I was like, yeah, if I was Jordan Williams, I'd be trying to strike with him too.
Yeah, I'd be like, bro, keep my gloves away from your face. Like, I'm throwing only rights tonight. Get away from me. I mean, I hate to say that about Ian Garry. So, for anyone that's wondering, Ian Garry, 8-0, huge prospect out of Ireland. 8-0, was also a Cage Warriors champion, like impressively such, with that few pro fights. Now, what's interesting and what's the building block of his story for the UFC and what they're going to market, what you all are going to hear as fans is, he has pictures of Conor McGregor when he worked in a suit store in Ireland that McGregor used to buy his suits from whenever he was like on his rise up. Now that is true, and I don't mean to discredit the fact that Ian Garry literally said to Conor or whatever, like, I want to be like you. I want to do what you do, whatever. Said that when he was 13. 14 maybe.
Bro, it's like Mike. It's like Conor.
It's literally that story.
Left one of his shoes at the suit store. He put it on and got some braids and became like Conor.
And then even to add to his story, he has the letter from his mom whenever he was going for his Cage Warriors championship run, like with 2 fights from getting his belt in Cage Warriors. She wrote him a letter and said, you shouldn't do mixed martial arts. Like, your family, I don't love it. Your dad doesn't love it. Like, we don't like watching you fight. Like, blah, blah, blah. We don't think that you're good enough to be the top guy in the world, the UFC top guy. Like, we see those guys. We see who you are. Like, you can't do that. And he took that, like, in stride and was like, cool. Thanks for throwing fuel in my flame. Like, I needed
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, no, he's an interesting prospect. Also, he's like what 6'3" at welterweight.
I believe that's correct. He's very
Yeah,
tall. Very
insanely
tall.
tall, insanely tall
6'3",
welterweight.
6'3", somehow makes 170. Now, granted, 23 years old. Maybe when he's 28, 29, just like Kevin Lee, he kind of has to move up.
Yeah, I could see that in his future for sure. He has a lot of filling out to do. Now we were pretty rough on Jordan Williams. He had a ton of success in round one.
I thought he looked great for the first 2.5 minutes. Like first, if we were doing half rounds, like we talk about sometimes, I thought maybe first half round, Jordan Williams.
You're right. You're exactly right. But it was this thing, right, where Jordan Williams was landed probably 5 or 6 shots to Ian Garry's 1. But when Ian Garry would land, we talked about Williams' suspect chin, and part of that was from previous fights. But like he wears shots maybe worse than any fighter in the goddamn UFC. Like seriously, he has fought also guys that punch really hard. So I'm sure that it's maybe a combination of both. But like I said, he was piecing up Ian Garry for the first 2, 3, 4 minutes. But when Ian Garry would land the occasional shot, it would just look devastating. I mean, it would just have so much impact. The body language, the facial expressions, just the damage. But however, yeah, Gary's nose was hella busted up himself. Like I said, from volume though, and he was wearing and taking the shots, like mentally taking them, not letting it affect him, but just physically, visually, the nose was busted up. Williams was the opposite, where he wasn't as busted up, but it would like almost wobble him every time he would get touched.
Right. I think a big differential, just statistically, if you're going to put it on paper, was Williams threw 54 strikes in the first round. Garry threw 32, and he only landed 2 less. So he threw 22 less and landed 2 less. So imagine that as far as how the numbers. Like, I think what you're saying is perfect. Like, as far as the visual compensation to the mathematical validation. You know what I mean?
No, that was cool how that lined up for sure. We're not always talking out our ass here on the big down, but yeah, no. So I guess what we're getting at is about as competitive as a one-round match can be, because I call it the buzzer beater. Ian Buzzer Beater Garry needs to be the new nickname, because 4 minutes and 59 seconds. I mean, as late as could possibly be. Catches the sweetest right-hand counter. Gorgeous.
You know, it looked just like. Now, granted, he's a right-handed fighter, so reverse the scales because the other guy's left-handed, but it looked just like McGregor's last Cage Warriors fight. Literally step one step back and sunk just the hardest counter shot from their lead hand.
Great shot.
And just completely dropped the opponent and into the fight in that one shot.
I gotta say, that may be the most reckless, defensively irresponsible punch I've ever seen thrown by a fighter since we've been doing the breakdown.
Oh, he avoided the hook. He avoided the hook by this much to get off the counter that sat down Jordan Williams. And Jordan Williams.
No, I'm talking about the punch that Jordan Williams threw to get countered on.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Is the first hook he landed, the second hook he glanced, and he threw a third hook. Like, his combination was like still going, and he missed by that much, and that's the margin of error to sit him down. It's exactly what I was going to say, though, that like Jordan Williams should have not been chasing combos like that. Like, he got obsessed with his own volume.
And his head was over his feet, like he was reaching. It wasn't good technique. Like it was. It was, no, Jordan Williams, like, that's how you get countered and put to sleep. But
literally,
He was probably thinking there's 5 seconds left in the round, go for broke. Like, there's no way you're going to get finished with 5 seconds left. Well, that's exactly what the fuck happened.
Yeah, I don't know, though, because, I will say in my own mad scientist coaching brain, I would have the same approach as Jordan Williams. If there's 6 seconds, I'll just start throwing wild combos, because I would honestly think to myself, in 6 seconds, they're not going to be able to read this and return in time to sit me down and in time to stop the fight. However, that was not the first time. That was not the first time Williams had done that in that round. That was the third time he tried to throw a triple hook. You can't get away with that.
He does have a glass chin as well. He really does.
True. Very true. Very true.
So, that's where I'm going with this. Are you going fluke? Are you going perfectly?
No.
I wouldn't say fluke. I just do think it was
I wouldn't
Like
say
that.
perfectly timed shot either, though, because I think that if it was perfectly timed, he would have done it the second time Williams tried that combo, not the fourth time.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah, it wasn't fluky, but I guess what I'm saying is this: I'm putting a grain of salt on it because I'm so down on Williams that it's. I mean, I feel you. It was
Yeah,
his debut. He was minus 400. He gets the first round finish. I am not saying that Gary needed to do anything more. I mean, he was essentially losing that round. I mean,
I
potentially
was going
even
to score
getting
it for
10-8.
Williams. I was going to definitely score the round for Williams, no question.
And then also Williams had a deep submission at some point too.
Yeah,
And so I mean, potential maybe even a 10-8 there. Um, yeah, yeah. But anyway, maybe not 10-8. But Gary, I mean, between the damage on the face and the almost getting choked out, I mean, Gary was not winning any part of that round. I mean, until he was.
that was my thing with Gary is that like the McGregor style does not allow you to like easily win rounds. I don't think. I think what it allows you to do is like if your IQ is high enough in the fight game, then you will be able to download your opponent's style and essentially absorb and return with like a high level of success. Which now you'd see in McGregor's game, his opponent's level is too high to do that. He
Yeah.
can't do that because when he takes that damage, when they know his style, everyone knows his style now. So it might be the same thing with Ian Garry. He needs to like capture this meteoric rise while it's hot. But also, you're talking about the welterweight division. You're talking about Kamaru Usman, Leon Edwards, Colby Covington, and that's not to mention the wolf and lurking baby Hamzat. And we're gonna
Oh
get
yeah.
there. We're gonna get there because I noticed the end of the early prelims, so we still have the prelims to go. Hamzat's stock went through the fucking ceiling last night.
It did, and he didn't even fight. That's
Didn't
how
fight.
you know you're
Didn't
winning.
fight.
That's
We
how
can
you know
end.
you're doing things
We can
right.
we can head to the prelims off that for
So
anyone
yeah,
that's wanting to know. But yeah, Ian Garry, we should
one last
not.
thing.
I'd be remiss to miss his post fight interview. We do have to give him some credit on that.
Oh yeah, played it great. Used some of Connor's lines. Reminded us all that he's only 23 years old.
23.
23, and I mean, bright future. I do think. I mean, he's very skinny. Very. I mean, he did show some weaknesses. I'm not feeling like a Hamzat vibe from him.
You think
Which
85 is a stronger division for him later in his life? Like maybe when he's
yeah,
27, 28?
he puts on some weight. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Gary struggles with the top end wrestling and strength of the top end of the welterweight. Which you might be like, oh well, if he's going to struggle with the strength of a welterweight, why would he go to stronger guys? A, I think the middleweight division is not as stacked, and B, like he would be gaining weight and being thicker to be a middleweight, and I think that would suit him well. Just because I didn't see, yeah, he's 6'3". Obviously, the knockout power's there, but I do see like some potential for him to get manhandled at
Well,
170.
I don't think that's to mention the fact that if you go through 170, man, Usman, All-American wrestler, Covington, All-American wrestler, Chiesa and who else am I thinking of here? Chiesa and Magny. Or Hamzat. Chiesa and Hamzat. I mean, like world-class level wrestlers.
I mean, you got Burns, the jiu-jitsu
Burns is
Burns.
literally a world champion Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt.
Yeah, yeah. So that's
Like,
what
unless
I'm
you're
saying.
talking Leon Edwards or Stephen Thompson or Masvidal, who in the top 10 is purely a striker? Not one of them.
I feel you. And Gary, yeah, maybe he'll. I mean, he's a prospect, right? I think we need the slow build for Gary. Like I don't necessarily see the meteoric rise. I see a little Sugar Sean in his future. I see a few more cans. I see. Because I mean, Jordan Williams is, in my opinion, the can. I think he's going to get the can treatment, honestly. But I mean,
But
I'm
he
honestly
should, though,
kind of
because
for
he's
it. He's
tough.
so young. He's so young.
Tough, man. Like, he can take an ass whooping and still fight back. Like, I think that's an important trait of a can that's worth something. Like, there's cans that just get beat up, and then there's cans like Chris Patino, which is who Sugar Sean fought, which is like, you can't really finish this guy. Like, you got to find something different.
And foreshadowing, you don't want to necessarily rush his career, i.e., Edmund Shabazian. Boom, boom, boom.